Please welcome Matt Warren.
A very warm welcome to all of you here and all those joining us virtually as well. I'm excited today to be talking to you about how you can cut your shipping and warehouse management costs. My name is Matt Warren. I'm the founder and CEO of Vico. Now, before we get started, can I see a show of hands of who heard of Vico before this conference? Wow, okay, quite a lot of you. You are ahead of the curve. For the rest of you, Vico is Amazon's free shipping software for sellers who fulfill their own orders across multiple channels. And we'll talk a bit more about Vico towards the end. So, 3 key parts about our talk today. First, we're going to tell you how you can reduce your shipping costs. Secondly, we're going to look at how we can create a more efficient warehouse for you. And lastly, how Vico integrates with Amazon and some of the benefits for you. Before we get started, at the end of this presentation, we'll have a live Q&A. So I'd encourage you to scan the QR code now. You can submit your questions, and they'll magically get routed here for us at the end. Really keen to hear from you. Any questions you want about Vico, we will be very happy to answer. So, as sellers, you're probably blissfully aware it's been a tough few years with tough economic times, starting off with a COVID correction where we saw a drop in our sales, and then followed up by skyrocketing inflation, pushing our costs up. And I imagine as sellers, you are reluctant to pass those costs on because you want to be competitive. You don't want to lose the buy box. You want to keep your sales flowing in. It's a really tough balance to keep the costs, your sales price down and manage your costs. And if you're like me, when you're running a business, you'll go through your P&L. You'll be looking at your costs. Do I really need this? Can I cut this cost? But if you zoom out to your P&L, probably your single biggest cost is your inventory. But your second biggest cost is probably your shipping costs. So, I'm going to invite onto the stage Vico's head of product, Michelle Lau, to talk to you about how you can reduce your shipping costs.
Thanks, Matt. So I'll tell you about how to reduce your shipping costs with Vico. Shipping is expensive, and it's becoming more and more expensive year after year as carriers increase their rates, sometimes even more than the rate of inflation. It takes up a large percentage of your P&L, 15, maybe even 20% of your revenue. So any savings, even 30, 40 cents a label, can be significant of your overall expenses. But it's very hard to figure out who has the best shipping rates. Where can you go to buy your labels that will help save you those costs? You and I have probably seen a lot of shipping competitor software where they advertise bold claims on shipping expenses. 88% off, cheapest rates possible. And when you take a step back, that's a crazy claim. 88% off. How is that even possible? So we looked into it. And we found that it's only factually true if you cherry pick specific examples. So for example, if you ship something pretty small but very heavy, like a bowling ball, from Alaska to Costa Rica with airmail on a Saturday, you get the gist. And while it's factually correct, it doesn't actually reflect what you sell and how you ship. Truth of the matter is that most of these shipping apps have the same negotiations with carriers and actually receive similar rates. And in full transparency, that also includes us here at Vico. So no matter what shipping app you use or have considered in the past, there has been no financial difference to you. Until now. Starting today, you can earn up to 5% back when you ship in Vico. For the first 2 months, you'll earn 5% on all shipping labels that you ship in Vico, and after that, it'll be up to 5% back, depending on the shipping service. So, if you're shipping 5,000 orders a month, you can earn on average $7,500 back in your first year alone. That's major savings. So how does it work? Similar to getting cash back when you use your MasterCard or Visa, every time you buy a shipping label in Vico, you can earn up to 5% back in credits. The more you ship in Vico, the more credits you'll earn. And at the end of the week, we'll take the credits you've earned and automatically take it off of your shipping bill, saving your business money. What does that mean? Bottom line, Vico now officially offers the lowest shipping rates in the US. You heard that right. Vico now officially offers the lowest rates in the US. Go ahead, compare our rates. You'll love what you see. So far we talked about how Vico gives you the best rates across major carriers. Now let's move on and talk about the other big problem in shipping. Figuring out which shipping carrier and which shipping service gives you the best rates on an individual order-by-order basis. There are so many carriers and shipping services out there, and prices range significantly, depending on variables like zip code, cubic, dimensions, non-cubic. You get the gist. Carriers change their prices frequently, and it's becoming even more complicated to keep track of prices as more and more carriers move towards dynamic pricing. So a rate card you reviewed last week may no longer be available for your orders today anymore. It's so hard to stay on top of what shipping services give you the best rate for your particular orders, while also delivering your orders to your customer on time. On most shipping apps, it's simply not practical to check these across different carriers and services. It takes far too many clicks and wastes your warehouse team precious time. Here's how Vico can help. Vico gives you automatic rate shopping. What this means is that you can look at the rates across different carriers and different services all in one view. Vico automatically helps you pick the lowest shipping service for that order that delivers the order to your customer on time. There's no need to manually compare rates anymore, and this has two big benefits. One, it saves your team precious seconds from an order-by-order basis choosing the best rates, and number two, it gives you the confidence that you're getting the best rates possible. So, to recap, Vico saves you shipping costs in major ways in two ways. One, we offer the lowest shipping rates across the US by giving you up to 5% back in credits. And number two, Vico helps you automatically rate shop to find the best rates for each individual order. Now, let's move on and talk about the other big source of costs in your business: your warehouse. As you get bigger and your operations become more complex, there are inefficiencies and probably lost opportunities that are costing you money, compared to shipping costs, which are very easy to see and very easy to quantify. These operational issues are a bit more hidden, but they're still costing you a significant amount of money. I'll tell you about 4 of the major problems that could be happening in your warehouse and how Vico can help you fix them. The first big issue in fulfillment is sending out the wrong items. Did you know that 23% of customers return an item because they received the wrong order? This happens when your team grabs the wrong item off the shelf or puts it in the wrong box at the packing station. It's unfortunate, but it happens, and it results in unhappy customers, bad reviews, returns, time wasted in customer service, and you have to pay more money to resend the right item back to your customer. So how do you minimize the human error of this component and reduce the stats significantly? We recommend a couple of things that are aligned with best warehouse practices in the industry. The first of them is to set up your warehouse by naming your bins and your shelves and aisles and doing so alphanumerically. So for example, you could name your aisle A1, shelf 01, bin 01. So your location for that item is at A1.01.01. Now, why do we recommend you to do that? Because when your team goes to pick items, they can sort orders by your bin location, and that has 2 big benefits. 1, they're no longer wasting time walking around in circles trying to find items for order by order. And then number 2, they're also much less likely to pick the wrong item because they're told exactly where to go find those items. Now, some of you probably already have this set up, in which case, congratulations, you're way ahead of the curve. But for many of you, It's likely a big effort to reorganize your warehouse this way. You're busy running your business, and you likely depend on a team of reliable employees who've been with you for 5, 10, 15 years. Peter in the back knows everything about everything, and he keeps the engine running. But I encourage you to think ahead. As your business triples in scale, it'll be really difficult to hire new Peters quickly in time if you don't already have a system in place. So, we just talked about how setting up bin locations can help you reduce the chance of mispick. The other recommendation we want to give to you is to consider using barcode scanners as a part of your fulfillment workflow. Putting barcode scanners as a part of your packing workflow at the packing station enables your team to provide a backup choice, a backup stop to check that the wrong items aren't being shipped out in the right box. In Vico, you can enable a setting which makes packing part of your workflow. If your team doesn't scan the item at the packing station, or if they scan the wrong item, the shipping label simply won't generate. You can do this with USB scanners, which are very affordable at about $25 a piece. And the benefit, obviously, is that you significantly reduce the chances of sending out the wrong items. So far, we talked about how mispicks and shipping out the wrong items are a major problem happening in your warehouse, and how a couple things you can do to help resolve them. 1, setting up new bin locations and naming them alphanumerically. And 2, also using barcode scanners to scan each item before the items are sent out. Next, let's talk about the second big problem that could be happening in your warehouse: stockouts. You go to pick an order, and it's not there. Show of hands. Who's had that happen to them in the past? The good thing is you're not alone. Did you know that 40% of Amazon FBM orders are canceled because the seller didn't have enough inventory to fulfill that order? It's really complicated to track inventory alone, and as you start selling on more channels, it becomes even more complicated. If you sell your last pair of shoes on Amazon, you have to tell Shopify and Walmart quickly enough, or else you run the risk of selling stock that you don't have on hand to fulfill. Overselling is really complicated and really bad. It results in canceled orders, as we talked about, disappointed customers, bad reviews, and worse stats on Amazon. If you try to avoid canceling the order, you have to then spend expensive shipping costs to expedite that item from your supplier to your customer. No one wins in any of these scenarios, so let's talk about how to avoid them in the first place. You need software to track your inventory accurately, in real time, across all of your sales channels. You need something like Vico, which has in-depth inventory tools. I'll touch on a few features of Vico's inventory tools here, but you can find out more on our website if you want to. In Vico, you can differentiate between different types of inventory. For example, on-hand stock, which are the units that you physically have in your warehouse, and committed stock, which are the units that you've already sold to customers but are still waiting to be shipped out from your warehouse. And the difference between on-hand and committed is available stock, which are actually the units you can sell to new customers for new orders and that you want accurately synced to your sales channels. When you can differentiate between all these different stock levels, this makes sure that you never oversell. Let's say that you sell units that are just beyond and more complicated than selling individual products. Let's say you sell bundles. If you have bundle components, you can also track those stock accurately in Vico as bundles and also as individual components, so you never lose track of that. What if you have multiple warehouses that you fulfill from? Or you might have the odd retail store or two. In Vico, you can store and track across multiple warehouse locations, as well as retail stores and even FBA. Because the stock you have in FBA is still your stock after all, so you need to have that in one place. If you receive an order, we'll automatically route that order to the closest warehouse to your customer, saving you money on shipping costs as well. Vico supports the full end-to-end stock cycle. Stock leaving your warehouse, of course, which are the units that you're shipping to customers from sales orders, but also incoming stock from your suppliers. You can create purchase orders directly in Vico when you want to restock, and we'll track that incoming stock in one place. When the items get received in your warehouse, your team can use Vico software to receive it and make it immediately available for sale in Vico. Vico keeps track of everything that happens in your warehouse, including manual stock changes. You can have your team put an update every time something is manually updated. For example, an item found or returned if you want to increase the stock level, or item damaged or missing items when there's a manual decrease. Either way, everything is tracked in your warehouse, so you know everything that happens in your business. What inventory changed? How much it was changed by? Why was it changed? And who actually changed it? So you can always go back and audit these inventory changes for any reason in the future. Vico doesn't just keep track of all inventory in Vico alone. We make sure all of your sales channels have the most accurate stock levels so you don't oversell. Say you sell a pair of shoes on Amazon. Would automatically adjust that listing for the inventory levels on eBay, Shopify, Walmart, Etsy, Magento, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, just to name a few integrations, giving your customers a great experience wherever they shop. So far we talked about how stockouts are a big issue and how Vico can help in 2 ways. 1, tracking inventory accurately within Vico, and 2, also automatically making sure those accurate levels are synced into all of your sales channels. Now, let's talk about the third big problem that could be happening in your warehouse: underselling. This happens when you run out of stock on an item, especially bestsellers, so you lose out of sales opportunities and leave money on the table. And that's so infuriating because you've done so much work up front already, creating an excellent product offering, making sure you have great reviews, and making an amazing delivery experience for your customers. But that one last bit, not having enough stock at the right time, means you leave money on the table. It's hard to keep track of when items will go out of stock, and there are so many factors that come into play. For example, seasonality, promotions, supplier lead time, weather, margins, etc. It's so hard to keep track of all of this, and you likely have a giant spreadsheet somewhere with all of these factors. But as your operations grow more complicated, as your catalog increases, and as you run more marketing campaigns, it's hard to scale that business. To avoid underselling, you need purpose-built software that goes beyond your spreadsheet, that accurately predicts how much demand you need and tells you what you need to do to fix that. You need something like Vico's demand forecasting software. How does it work? In Vico, we take your combined sales history across all of your different sales channels, and we use that to predict how much customer demand you might have in the future. We account for things like stock levels. So we look at how much stock you have available today, considering back orders, considering incoming stock from your suppliers, and then we tell you what SKUs you need to repurchase and how many you need to repurchase. Our demand forecasting report is hugely customizable, and there's many things you can look at when you're in the product, but I'll go over a couple just to give you some sense and flavor. So we talked about sales from multiple channels, we talked about inventory levels, but say you want to account for seasonality, or you're gearing up for a big promotional campaign around Black Friday or otherwise. What you can do in Vico is you can change the comparable time period for something that was similar to the promotion you want to run in the future, and we can take that into account for demand forecasting. Let's say, for example, you want to hold 8 weeks of stock to make sure you never oversell, or you want to hold 2 weeks of stock to make sure you don't purchase too many inventory items that's holding up your P&L or spending time and money in warehousing costs. In either case, you can use that as a factor in a variable and tell Vico how many weeks of stock you want to withhold. Let's call it 4 or 8, and we'll also take that into consideration for demand forecasting reports. Let's say your business has tripled in size since last Black Friday, and you want to let us know to take into account for that demand forecasting. You can also make that a variable and update that in the report. And lastly, if you have various suppliers for a SKU, so say, for example, you have a Chinese supplier who takes 12 weeks to deliver items to you, and you have a Boise, Idaho supplier that takes 2 weeks, and those obviously make a major difference in how you repurchase and when you repurchase. You can have that information all displayed in Vico, tell us who you want to repurchase from, and we'll give that information back to you in terms of how many units to buy and when to buy that. So far we talked about how underselling is a big problem, because it means that you leave money on the table when you don't have the right stock in place at the right time, and how Vico's demand forecasting can help you solve this problem. Next, Matt will talk to you about the fourth big problem happening in your warehouse, the stress of missing customer delivery dates.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so even if you've got a really efficient warehouse, sometimes things are going to get crazy. I'm thinking Prime Day, the holidays, maybe every Monday morning, which generally means you're going to miss some of your ship dates for your orders. It's inevitable for even the best sellers that you will be late with some of those orders. That then leads to compounding stress, because then you get the same old email from customers. Where's my order? You then have the worst part probably is the worry about your account health with Amazon. All those compounding factors mean missing the delivery date can be very stressful as a seller. So over the last year, we spent a lot of time visiting Amazon fulfillment centers. We're very curious to see, how do they do it? How do they be so efficient? Was there some technology that they're using that perhaps we could simplify and give to sellers? The big surprise for me was there's still a lot of people in these fulfillment centers. I was expecting robots everywhere, but there are robots and they are cool, but still people are the core of running a fulfillment center. And we dived in a bit deeper. We wanted to find out, what is Amazon's secret sauce to running a really efficient warehouse? And the answer is a little mundane, but it's the truth. The truth is great process and measuring performance. Two simple things, very hard to do in reality. The single biggest difference, though, I noticed between an Amazon warehouse and a seller's warehouse, there's no paper in Amazon's warehouse. Everything was done digitally. So yesterday I was very excited to launch the new Vico scanner. It's the same model that's used in Amazon fulfillment centers. It's fully integrated with Vico, and it's retailing for $490 and available to buy today. So what makes the scanner so great is it'll make your warehouse much more efficient. One of the key areas it does this is through picking time. So your warehouse team members will use it to go around and pick their orders. And the key bit is it automatically creates batches based on the number of items in the orders, based on the location within the warehouse, and then those optimized batches then sent to the pickers. So they pick up a scanner, it tells them where to go next. They don't need to work out which orders to pick, how to do it. They also don't need to print off any pick lists, which is also good for the environment. And lastly, it also means they pick the right item the first time, because they have to scan the product barcode. So it does that all automatically, taking a lot of stress off your team. But it's also really flexible. So for example, if you want to pick your prime orders first, just to make sure you get them out quickly, you can set rules to do that. So we've had quite a lot of sellers piloting the scanners for a while, and the feedback has been the same from all of them. It massively improves accuracy of picking, and they stop sending out the wrong items. The other key thing that everyone said was they now can measure the performance of their warehouse. So previously, they didn't know how fast things were. But now, once they move to the Vico scanner, they can see through the reports in Vico how many units are they picking per hour, how many they're shipping per day. Is Peter really your best guy in the warehouse? Now, the scanner is awesome and it's brilliant, but I also know, having run my own warehouses, that your warehouse team can be reluctant for change. They've been doing this for years, they're really good at it, and they may be a little bit resistful to any form of change, and that makes sense. So we've got a fix for that. You can download our iOS or Android app. It has exactly the same functionality as our scanner. You can take it back to your warehouse team and you can try it with them. You can prove to them that it works before you make any investment in the scanner. I'm very confident you'll find once they've used it, they'll love it. I'm particularly very proud of what we've built with the scanner. We've taken something very complicated that Amazon took years to build, and we've simplified it and made it available to everyone. Normally, warehouse management software that has similar capabilities costs tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So As some of you are probably aware, Vico is an Amazon company. We were acquired 18 months ago. When we were acquired, we had a really good integration between Vico and Amazon. But over the last year, we've been really focused because we want to make that good integration great. So we've been investing heavily in it. And we've made it a lot faster now. Orders sync in seconds, not minutes before. The reliability has gone up to be very, very high and above 99%. We've also spent a lot of time increasing the breadth and depth of that integration. So Vico is actually powered by Amazon's buy shipping technology, which has a lot of benefits. So for every order you ship in Vico, for every Amazon order, you get the benefit of negative suppression claims, and also means all your VTR metrics will be correct. We're also integrated with Seller Fulfill Prime, which is great because it'll highlight each of your orders as Prime, and you can then set rules around how to handle those. As you heard yesterday, Amazon Shipping launched, and that's fully integrated with Vico today, and you can buy your Amazon Shipping labels right now. So with Vico's FBA integration, it means you can see all your FBA orders in Vico, but you can also see all your inventory as well alongside your own warehouse's inventory, giving you a holistic view across your business. Everything in one place. And we have in-depth reporting so you can see a full breakdown of your sales and inventory. We've also got integration with Amazon's fulfillment channel, which means Vico will pull down your Shopify orders, your Walmart orders, or your Etsy orders, and we can automatically send them to MCF so Amazon can fulfill them for you. So, summing up, Vico is free shipping software, and we're now offering the lowest rates with up to 5% back in credits. But it's a lot more than just shipping software. As Michelle has just shown you, we have advanced inventory and warehouse management functionality. And it's really easy to create a Vico account. It takes less than 60 seconds. You can use your Amazon login to do it. And the best part about Vico, it's completely free. Well, thank you very much for joining our session today. I hope you found it useful.